Okay, good morning to everyone. Welcome to Veu GovTech. I'm Kamila Gasinska. I will give the word to Jaume Miralles, director general de Inteligencia Artificial de la Eficiencia de la Generalitat de Catalunya, para la bienvenida.
Bon dia a tothom. Benvinguts i benvingudes a aquesta primera sessió del cicle Veu GovTech, una nova iniciativa de la comunitat DCA-GovTech impulsada en el marc d'aquest programa GovTech Catalunya, que té la voluntat, com sabeu, de crear un espai estable de diàleg i inspiració. Veu GovTech neix amb un objectiu molt clar, que és connectar l'ecosistema català de la innovació pública, al que tots hi pertanyeu, amb referents internacionals que estan transformant la manera com la tecnologia pot ajudar a millorar l'acció de govern i els serveis públics. Per inaugurar aquest cicle, avui tenim el privilegi de comptar amb Kamila Gasinska, una de les veus més rellevants de l'ecosistema GovTech europeu. Permeteu-me que canviï l'anglès per donar-li la benvinguda. Kamila Gasinska is a leading public sector innovation leader and GovTech strategist. She currently serves as strategic partnership lead at the GovTech Lab Lithuania, where she works closely with public institutions, startups, and international partners to drive digital innovation in public services. Kamila has played a key role in shaping strategic alliances and international initiatives such as GovTech for All, the EU GovTech Incubator, and in promoting new procurement and innovation approaches across Europe. She's also co-founder and a board member of the GovTech Global Alliance, a global network that brings together public, private, and third sector organizations committed to strengthening GovTech ecosystem worldwide. Kamila regularly contributes to major GovTech forums and collaborates with governments and international organizations to help scale solutions that generate real and measurable impact for citizens. Kamila, thank you very much for joining us in this first edition of GovTech Voices. We're sure that your insights and experience will inspire us to strengthen collaboration between startups and public administrations and to scale solutions that truly make a difference for people and for society. Welcome, and thank you for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much to Jaume, and we dive into the first of our GovTech, Kamila. So also for us, for the DCA-GovTech, a really pleasure to have you with us. And we want just to start, you can tell, asking you about your journey in the GovTech and the public innovation. How is working? How did you start it?
Yes, where do I start? I'm trained psychologist and sexologist, and I spent many years working in this field, also in the human rights field. And then at some point I started working in the Ministry of Education, and I created in Lithuania first app to anonymously report bullying in the in schools. And at that point, my colleague who was creating GovTech Lab Lithuania invited me, as my app which I created was a GovTech app. She invited me to join innovation agency and join her team. And this is how I started. It's nothing I studied, and I think that my success in the field was because I didn't know that public sector, certain things are impossible to do in public sector, but this is why GovTech was so successful in Lithuania, because we didn't know that.
Yeah, I know that your background in psychology is quite important, and you put all your knowledge in transforming the way how to approach the public administration. In your opinion, which are the challenges that you face in transforming the public procurement? This is a very important issue that our company are facing today.
Yes, this was, so I already mentioned that, many things in public sector seems impossible to implement because of big bureaucracy systems. Also, public sector is risk averse, and there is a reason. We don't want public sector to be investing public money in different risky projects or canceling some projects. So this is important, but this was a big barrier for small companies or small players to bring some innovative ideas. And we saw why we created GovTech Lab Lithuania, because we saw that 9 over 10 big IT like in general, 9 over 10 IT procurements, IT contracts go to big tech companies. And in most cases, those big IT companies are very good at bringing what's on the tender documents, but not actually bring some innovative and transforming solution, which actually would change the quality of public services, would change the quality of the citizens' engagement and things like that. So those were the first barriers we saw, and we tried to work around them.
This is very important. And so, in the innovation processes, how are important for the government? I mean, to establish a way, how do you get in touch to the government? And by the other way, how do the company have to make the processes and how they can approach the public administration, to be successful.
So I'm working most with public sector, so maybe my answer will be a bit tailored to that part, but I see that there is a huge importance to have very structured process because of public sector is risk averse. There is a lot of bureaucracy, and many people in the public sector itself want to experiment, want to try something new, but they are afraid because there is no maybe political buy-in in some cases, or they are afraid to risk public money. So there needs to be this safe space for experimentation from the public sector side, for sure. But for companies, there are different ways, and I would encourage looking for the ways to contact public sector, because it's not about I wouldn't say that you need to wait for the procurement, but public sector wants to hear those ideas. They they will never launch a procurement for your solution or like for some innovative solution if they don't know the solution exists. So this is how we also, in one sentence said what we are doing in the public sector as GovTech Lab is that we are helping public sector to procure solutions they don't know they exist, right? So also approaching public sector, but like in the manner which won't be too scary for the public sector is really important, because there are many willing people to test, to learn something new, but you need to find a way to involve them.
So how important is have a cluster or a community to get together, or the company that they offer potential solution, and also how important it is to construct the way or the space where you get in touch offer with demand.
Yes, exactly. This is critical, and when we came to when we came to this working with the GovTech, we also it's very critical to have a structured process for the procurement, but creating spaces for those two sides to meet. And don't be afraid if you're launching some new product, don't be afraid to invite public sector to that. It's not that you need to wait for some cluster to create the opportunities. You can also approach and invite public sector officials to some events where you present some solutions. But structuring this collaboration and making spaces where those two sides meet and understand each other is super important. Another thing is understanding each other, because we also speak different languages. Public sector speaks super different language from the startups. So also having this intermediary who will translate from one language to another is also a critical thing.
You have a very huge experience across Europe in building up GovTech framework, we can say. So, normally, which are the key elements that you consider that we have to keep in mind? We will start in Catalonia, our project with GovTech program, Catalonia GovTech program, but there is some elements that you think that we have to still remember to keep in mind and to use this as best practice for instance?
So for sure, one thing is I'm thinking about how we were building the model for Lithuania first, and then I also supported more than 10 countries in building their own models. Recently, I was working with Kenyan government, and the challenges are all the same. Doesn't matter which country you're working in. So one thing is the language. So when we've built the model, and we had several iterations about how those GovTech challenges could work, we were taking problems from the public sector and then translating them to the challenges for the startups, because the language matters. When you put 20 pages or 100 pages document, as public sector loves to do, to startups, even publics, I don't understand those, even though I work in the public sector. So that's a very important thing. So finding this common language, which would work for both sides. Then for sure, procurement, and procurement is a critical part. In the regular traditional procurement, there is no way for companies which are new, who don't have the track record, to apply in most of the cases. And, because it's very difficult process to approach, but also you need to have those proofs. So for governments to find the ways to procure innovatively, to look at the procurement system innovatively, is very important. And in Lithuania, we used for that, Lithuania's public procurement system is one of the most rigid in the whole Europe, and it doesn't allow many things. So we looked at the procurements in architecture, and we decided to use design contest as the main procurement model, where municipality, whatever, wants to build a new school and they don't say that it needs to have 100 windows and blue doors, 20 blue doors, but then every architect can come up with their own idea. And you can do the same with, and not that many countries at that point were doing that. I think Poland was trying to do something similar, but we tried to apply this procurement method to the technology system, and now many countries are doing so as well. But we are one of the first who tried that, and it works perfectly, because you just then state the problem and state the outcome you want to achieve, and then someone can come up with idea of using AI or some other technology. And there are so inspiring examples of how it can work. If we have time, maybe I can tell about that. What ideas can come up to public sector if you open the procurement and you open your mind for different ideas from the public.
Oh, this is very interesting, and also I would like to dive into all the part of the pilot project, and how do you scale it? Because also in the GovTech is innovation. You test your solution, and this is working. You need to scale it, and to do a long-term project to implement it, also to other department, and to use it, and to exploit. So this is not easy to say, but not to do it. In your experience, how is working? There is something that we can replicate it, that we can use this as sample, of this.
So there are many barriers, both on sometimes. Most of them, I would say, are on the public sector side. Some of them are on the startup side. So sometimes the pilots solves a very narrow problem, right? And this is something for the public sector to bear in mind. If you want to attract startups, how do you state the problem so you're not their only client, right? So for them to scale and for them to be able to and be willing to invest in the solution, big tech companies are very okay with doing one certain project and then goodbye. But then if you want to raise this startup ecosystem, you need to think about that. But also for the startup, it's important to think how this solution or or some elements of the solution could be scalable to other clients, could be scalable abroad. So that's one thing. On the public sector side, for sure, there is no clear owner after the piloting, clear owner of the problem sometimes, or of the pilot itself. Sometimes it's lack of political will, of course, but then because we see also that people on the ground are very eager, but then for scaling you need the budget, you need to again launch the procurement, maybe the procurement system itself. Sometimes you can launch the procurement bearing in mind that in the end you'll have the full-scale project. But if you launch the procurement just for the piloting, it's difficult to get this another step, right? To launch another procurement for the full-scale solution. In many cases, it's the budget. But what we see in Lithuania, and I also see in many other countries, and this is something for startups to bear in mind how long the processes in public sector are. Sometimes this piloting is proving the business case for the public sector, right? Then people are going to their bosses, showing the results. This means that if we have now 2026 and you prove the results, they may be able to put the budget for 2027. But if you're piloting in the end of 2026, you'll get the budget only in 2028 for the full scale. And it can be a huge contract, right? But then still, and also it's an important message to public sector that you need to understand that startups need to survive throughout this year while waiting for the full-scale contract. So the budget is something to think about when start piloting, bearing in mind that if the pilot is successful, what are next steps? Because in many cases, we're just trying to pilot because we hear there is a nice solution, but we don't think what we're going to do next. Then sometimes, and it's on both sides, there could be difficulties about integrating the pilot solution or the solution into the existing system. So APIs are crucial. APIs cost in many cases the most of make the biggest price of the biggest part of the price of the solution. Then also you need to show while piloting that there is an impact. You need to show KPIs, you need to show numbers. Public sector thinks this way. And political buy-in. But if you have everything, if you have evidence, if you have good relationship, if you're willing to wait, if you're willing to understand how public sector work, and you have the evidence that your solution is working, you could try to get to scale it. Maybe even if if you're working with municipality, in this case with Catalonia, you can look into other municipalities, into other regions in Spain, and try to sell this product to just thinking about who are the other problem owners in the country for the beginning.
So you say for the public administration part, you have a cleaner owner, the budget, integrating the API, and important the communication to show the impact. And what about the collaboration to make an agreement in between big company and small company and startup that can ensure to continue the project and maybe to have a large impact on it?
Yes, but this is very important to think for the public sector, because if you already have a big tech provider for some system which you are testing some add-on from the startup, which would bring some innovative solution for some more narrow maybe problem, then it's important to think while also structuring the procurement how it will work. Or maybe not only structuring the procurement, but just understanding that you should be, in this case, both public sector and big tech companies are in power situation, right? Yeah. So you need to take care of a startup in this case, and think while structuring the whole process, how it could work.
And do you have any example across the Europe that some solution that has successfully moved from a pilot to adoption to a large scale?
For sure. And there's one of the examples is from actually Barcelona, is the CDM platform, right? which started as a small pilot, and now it's scaled throughout, like globally, to also other continents, but also have two great examples. I really love, like I've met the owners of those startups from Scotland. It's Vistalwork and the routing company. And Vistalwork is an analytic tool for and specialist intelligence to detect harmful products online. And they scaled. They piloted with the police in Scotland, then they scaled also to Lithuania, and now they are established in Estonia, and they are working with different organizations because they proved the solution works, right? And they proved it in several small pilots, and they were also eager to work pro bono at some point, just to test their solution with different organizations, to have this to build their solution and build the proof that they can deliver. The routing company is on-demand vehicle routing and management platform. They also started with some super small villages in Scotland, and I don't remember, but they scaled to up to 5 countries, I think now. Also going small to smaller places, offering to test on a small scale. I don't remember now the name, but we worked with several, also through GovTech Global Alliance, with several startups which were able from Brazil to scale to Lithuania, So there are examples. In Lithuania, I remember one very nice project about it, and it was a few years ago, so when AI was not that a big thing, but one school tested a solution, piloted the solution for AI for teachers, and now it's being procured on a national level, and it will be delivered to all the schools in Lithuania. So one thing why they were successful, they were able to prove that this solution makes an impact, and they showed the numbers and the data. And another thing, they made a great relationship with the problem owner. This is super, super important. And this is something big tech not always is able, they are investing in more formal relationship, but if you invest in the relationship with the public sector, it's easier also for you to scale. And startups are great in investing on a more personal level.
Yeah, maybe they are more flexible, agile, so they can reach the final client in an easy way. Even though this is a case of a scaled solution at international level, does it mean that they apply through international challenge, or always work, is a kind of personal they commercialize the solution, and they get in Dutch singularly to each country or each government, or just they apply an international challenge?
So it can be different in many cases. So there are more and more challenges open for international companies. And even I know that challenges in Lithuania are open also to international companies. Projects like GovTech for All is opening their procurements, pilot procurements for European companies. And even now I'm supporting newly established GovTech Lab Ukraine. And they pilot their first challenge series with 3 challenges, and 2 of 3 challenges were won by companies not from outside Ukraine. So 1 from Nordic and 1 from Lithuania, and just 1 from Ukraine. So that's one thing, to look at what is going on in those GovTech labs around Europe. But also reaching out to those clients you are willing to pilot. As I said, in many cases, even giving the solution to test for a month or so, reaching out to public servants. And in many cases, I don't know how it is in Spain, but in Lithuania, public servants' contacts are online, and if you see that this is an important organization for you, you want to scale to that country, because also you shouldn't be treating Europe as a single market. It's not a single market yet, at least. And the procurement rules differ, the bureaucracy differ, everything is different. So you need to understand how like, to choose your market, which you feel that you understand, you will be able to take part in the procurement in the end, and then just reach out to potential clients and test the solution with them, just offer them, like, just to get the proof that your solution works. It's better to have, let's say, rather than waiting for one full-scale project, contract, it's better to have on your portfolio free small pilot testings in 3 different cities or 3 different countries. So when you approach this bigger projects, bigger contracts, you already have some proof. So yeah, so that's quite broad, but I wouldn't be just sitting and waiting for the opportunities, but actually researching, looking at how procurement works, also how those countries work, and just reaching out to people and trying to attract them with the solution you have.
Interesting. And in your European perspective, how we can measure the impact of the pilot and the project already adopted from the public administration side? There is any KPI that you used to use and you're asking for when you are implementing the solution on how it's working?
Yes, measuring impact is a key for sure. For public sector is not that is not an expert, unfortunately, in measuring impact in many cases, and it's a bottleneck for most of the countries, and we are still figuring out how to do that. But companies are better in that. So depending on the problem, the impact, the key metrics would differ. Sometimes it's cost saving, sometimes it's time saved for the public servants. It's improved citizen satisfaction with some services. Showing efficiency on depending on if we're testing some solution to, I don't know, I'm thinking about Lithuanian startup who's putting mirrors on the rooftops of hospitals, so to lower the heating, they are putting the mirrors so the sun light is going to lower floors of the hospital, so they don't need to put so much money for the heating, and they tested it for free with few hospitals, and then they showed they could look at the metrics, right? So those metrics are very important, but I feel that public sector is still struggling with we know how much money we spend, right? And also another thing, but this is a whole different discussion, that for public sector to save money, it's not always the best thing, right? Because if you save too much money next year, you may get less from the budget because you were too effective. So yeah, this is a whole different story. But I think that, for public sector, it would be good to look at how startups measure the impact and to learn from that. But there are so many KPIs you could look into.
We can use it. And finally, in this European perspective, you are part of GovTech for All. At least that is a European initiative. How important it is to be part and to share practice and experience at a European level or international level. How the people involved and government involved in this initiative share their best practice?
I think it's super important and crucial. I'm a big fan of all the networks. So this is more formalized network, but I'm also leading this GovTech Global Alliance, and sharing the experiences and being able to work together makes a big impact because you can learn from each other. Let's say I've mentioned this design contest, which we were using in Lithuania, and through GovTech for All, now many other countries started using that just as piloting the idea of what we had in Lithuania, which worked there, and we are now sure that it also can be can be applied in other contexts. And it also opens the market, I would say, because if you're sharing the know-how, and from that you also learn how other countries attract startups, how other countries attract different ideas, how you can also pilot the ideas of how to actually fight this bottleneck of scaling from pilot to the scale up to full-scale solution. So yeah, it's super important. For startups, it's also like Europe, like there are many opportunities to collaborate around Europe. And I already mentioned Ukrainian example, that, 2 of 3 startups which won their challenge series are from outside Ukraine. So this is huge opportunities for both the global, like local GovTech markets, but also for public servants to learn from each other and to test in more safe environment, which I was talking about at the beginning, different new ideas.
You are a member of the World Economic Forum Council for the GovTech and the digital public infrastructure. So, there is any active role of the European EU Commission that they have in, and how they support the GovTech strategy, if they do it, of course.
So World Economic Forum is a different part, and this is a truly global. We have members from US, from Japan, from Singapore, so like from all around the globe. And there we are actually, we're not focusing on Europe there, we're focusing on global GovTech world. And, but actually, like, the more I work on the global level, also with GovTech Global Alliance, the more I see that the bottlenecks and the pain points are totally the same. But European Union and European Commission is supporting GovTech a lot. So one thing is GovTech for All, putting money for projects like that. But also there are different initiatives which support startups who want to sell their solutions for, and I will not now, I don't remember the name, but there are platforms where startups can apply, like can show their solutions and then find the access to the public sector. Another thing is the interoperability framework, and if your solution is already better established, you have like at least proof of concept, not proof of concept, but minimal viable product, you can get the interoperable Europe badge on your solution, which will be put on the website, and then like on the European Commission website, and then public servants from all around Europe can look and have this proof, like proof that your solution is actually working and could be interoperable inside the country or with like cross borders. So there are many initiatives for startups to do business and to get the access to the European market.
And it's a pleasure to have you here. And we would like to know, how do you see their GovTech situation from outside, but the Catalan GovTech situation? I mean, we are in this marathon to implement the GovTech adoption from the startup for the public administration. So your advice and how do you see our situation?
So I don't know the details, but I've been
Yeah,
working with Dani through GovTech for All for quite some time, and also heard a lot from Gobe about you, and you're at forefront in Europe, and I would even say worldwide. So don't know if I have any suggestions, but we are working together in GovTech for All, where we can learn from each other, and yeah, just go forward. You're doing great things. Don't have any criticism, I would say. At this point, it's good that you're like actively looking for something new, actively trying to improve, and even like, you know, organizing events like this, participating in different networks, in different activities. That's amazing, and others should be looking at you and learning from you. I definitely learned a lot.
Thank you, Kamila. So from my side, just to thanks to you for your participation and for your insight and tips that you gave to us. And I would like to give the floor to Dani Marco, that is responsible of the Catalonia GovTech program, to say a few words. Thank you very much, Kamila. Dani, the floor is for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. Thank you very much, Kamila. It's a pleasure to have here you in our first edition of the Voice for GovTech. We have seen that you have a long experience and you have been a key role player in the GovTech ecosystem and pushing a lot of initiatives that Catalonia is also involved. We are working together, as you say, in the GovTech for All consortium, that it's a very, very smart and clear initiative to push in this side, and Catalonia is also pleased to work with you and all the team. And also, I would want to say thank you to all the participants that are today in this seminar, in this webinar, and all that you are going to see it in the future. And let's meet in the next Voice GovTech with another team leader in Europe or worldwide. Thank you very much again, Kamila. Good luck in the future, and see you very, very next year. Thank you very much to all. Bye bye.